Test, 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 test. Okay. Let's go. Here I am. Isn't that pretty? Oh, chair's in the way. I like that one. Man, my hair's getting crazy. Okay. Welcome, Lisa. At least it's inspiring what you're doing on Instagram. Uh, really enjoying it. I appreciate the tags also. And Shelly's here and Shannon's here. Mars is here. So, yeah. Cool. I could really use some suggestions for class. Not because I'm bored, not because I'm uninspired, but because I feel like I could do anything. We could have like a kick-ass, like a kick our ass physical class. We could have a chill class. We could do a mix of all three. We could do like an ecstatic dance wave class. We have lots of options. We could do point. Uh, I'm up for any ideas, so fire away if you have them. Anne is at the beach with her family, and then they are coming here next Saturday. I may not have a wake and flow next week, but let's just yeah. Oh, I will have a wake and flow. Never mind, I forgot. And then I kind of worked that out. I'm having a Budweiser Zero here. I have not broken my fat alcohol fast. But I'm killing time until you make a suggestion. Please make a suggestion. Anything. About there's Carla. Sweet. Hey Carla. Carla, I'm taking suggestions if you just joined. Um, Again, not because I can't think of something, but just because I could go anywhere. We could have like an old school class, like we could, have a theme. I'm up for whatever. And let me go ahead and pull up my iTunes. Oh, bummer. Well, you will be missed. I wish there was, I do wish I had a little bit more flexibility, but the wake and flow is really working out for me, so I'm gonna keep it going. All right. Core hooping. Yeah, Anne doesn't, I mean, she gets mad when I say she doesn't like core hooping. She does like core hooping, but she doesn't seem to enjoy doing a lot of it. Okay. Let's try a sway song. It's kind of a different, this is not such an electronic-y. All right, let's do some core. I'm down. Let's start with sway. This might be too chill. Actually, I like that one, but let's try this one instead. It's the same artist. Bonnie Brown. Okay. Bonnie Brown. Big love to you, sister. Okay, let's sway up. Oh, I fixed the bird's eye, and it's pretty cool now. Right? You can see a lot more. Audible breath in. I invite you to close your eyes, take a couple deep breaths, and I want you to imagine some beautiful place with wind, some outdoor, beautiful setting. And with your eyes closed, I want you to imagine that you're there. I want you to see yourself in the picture. I invite you to feel wind. Maybe it's strong, maybe it's gentle. And I want to invite you into a spirit, into a inner feeling. And I call that feeling the Maidan. The Maidan. They were a mythical group of women that all happened to be orphaned at some point. And they collected around each other. And they lived in a forest at the top of a giant mountain with big, steep cliffs. The singular for Maidan is Maidan, and the plural for Maidan is Maidan. And they wanted it that way. Because even though they prized their individuality, they celebrated it, they still understood themselves to be a part of something. An integral part. They believe that each Maidan's uniqueness, their quirks, were part of a ray of light from the same source, Maidan. That their talents and skills were meant to serve the community. Audible breath in. I invite you into that spirit, into that mythic place. A space where you share ancestral energy with others. Audible breath in. Part of that spirit, one way to get there, is to imagine, if you can, that you've never seen yourself dance. Except in the reflections of water. That you've certainly never seen video of yourself. You've never had your movement judged by you or anyone else. And I invite you to imagine what that relationship with your movement would feel like if you had no idea what it looked like. That was the world of the Maidan. they thought of their movement like their voice. It was just theirs. Beautifully unique. Audible breath in. My dad believed that the whole world had a rhythm, and every living organism had a rhythm to it, and they called it ritmo. And when they would dance, when they would sway, they were finding rhythm with the rhythms around them, with the rhythms inside of them. So sway was a connection place. Audible breath in. If you're feeling any kind of connection to the space that I'm inviting you into, then you are feeling what the Maidan called the spirit wind. Audible breath in. Hey Jen, you're not late, you're right on time. All right. I'm glad Bonnie made that suggestion. I love talking Maidan, and I'm feeling it right now. Because it took me so long to understand how to talk to people about it without it being crazy, but it's a story, you know, that creates a context and it creates a framework, and hopefully it can help people connect to things that are harder to find words for, you know, harder to just access with logic and reason. You know, sometimes you need a little imagination to get to the very real places. So, since we're going to do core hooping, thank you, Shannon. Yeah, man, I am like, I feel like I'm on drugs. That's what I love about hooping. It's free buzz. I need to get my glasses on. I'm like, why can't I see? Okay. Oh. Huh. Oh, I see. I forgot which song is this it? Nope. Okay. Actually, it's this one. Yeah, I think it's this one. Okay. So, wind is super important within the Maidan and understanding their philosophies and their way of life. The wind was a very real connection for the Maidan between the world around them and the world inside them. And so when I, ask you guys to take audible breaths in, or we emphasize breath, that's straight out of the Maidan story. That's breathing in this, wind. I love this track. Oh my God. So the reason we talk about the Maidan is that one of the ways that they, did movement meditation was through the hoop, and you can kind of think of them like superheroes with the hoop. They're incredibly amazing hoopers. But they're breathing in and out, and they're creating this rhythm with them. And then they grab the circle, which, from the story of Saza, I don't know if you guys remember that story. She has a dream. Naya, the dreamwalker, takes her, and she reaches up and she grabs the moon, and dances with it. We had a couple cool classes with that. Maidan didn't see a lot of circles in the real world, so they saw them like as the sun, and they saw them as the moon, but they hardly ever saw like a perfect circle. They were round things, but not as perfectly circular looking anyway as the sun and the moon. And so the hoop was like a symbol of an ascension point. Like it was the highest thing that they could see in the sky was the sun or the moon. So the circle was that kind of ascension point, and they would place it on their core, like I'm doing right now, and they would create rhythm with it. So this metaphorical, symbolic ascension point of the sun and moon is now the shape of that, the perfection of that perfect circle is now rolling around them, and they're finding rhythm with it. I like to close my eyes to do this. I don't know if you can tell me whether the Maidan did or not. This is such a great song. When the Maidan would, hoop, they would core movement like this, they thought of the point of contact moving around them like the steps of a running person, in this case a woman. So the hoop is running across you. And if I stall with the hoop, then that runner is just standing, right? Just the fact that they use that metaphor is a tribute to the first Maidan that ever existed, and her name is Ana. So when they were in this meditation, and this is many, many, many years after Ana had come and gone, they would think of this, story where she epically runs to a new life through a dense forest and then through these endless hilly, grassy plains and then finally into a desert. And she runs all the way across the desert. And when she gets to the other side, she sees beautiful forests and just lush country and these giant trees that are like huge. They're like mythically tall trees. And as Ana is running towards those two trees, as she's making her way out of the desert, running towards these giant trees, she's observing how they are handling wind. And she realizes that they bend, that their strength is in bending. I mean, of course, these are massive trees anyway, but the winds get strong and the trees are bending with them. And she realizes that they're able to bend because their roots are so strong. And so she thinks of her feet as roots. As she gets closer to the two trees, or to the trees, she realizes that they are two trees that have grown up next to each other. So there's actually, like, she calls them sisters because they look like they were just two saplings that just happened to not want to yield to the other, and they just grew up perfectly together. So their branches are, meshed. I'm sure their roots are entangled. And she thinks of her body that way. She begins to think she has a right tree and a left tree. Instead of seeing herself as one tree like she saw these trees from a distance, when she gets closer, she realizes it's two trees. So she could turn one tree like into the wind and pull one back. Just like the wind has a current, just like water has a current, the direction of the hoop for the Maidan has a current, and it is called the current. The momentum I'm creating is called the current. If I stop the hoop, I stop the current. Hey, Jordan. Okay. I'm trying to remember some of these stories I finally, like, I would start a story and then I would start like when I was out on the road teaching stories, if I didn't already have a song, sometimes I'd start with a song and then play another one and then realize that song was better. And so a lot of these stories have songs that I've picked out, but I'm not sure I will know how to get to them. Huh. Weird. Okay. Actually, we're going to totally change the music vibes up. All right, I think I won't regret this. This is gonna be a very big vibe shift. Trust me, it's fun though. Okay. So we've got current, we've got ritmo, we've essentially got this, perfect symbol moving around us. And so as these things combine, right, what the Maidan believed is that they kind of swirl their inner energy around, like kind of the way wind can swirl and create, tornado type energy. When the winds come together, that was kind of what was happening for the Maidan. So they sometimes they would talk about weaving wind. As they're rolling the hoop around them, and of course it didn't happen every time, but when they're rolling the hoop around them, they're imagining that inwardly it is like swirling, like what we might think of as chi, or like life force. And it's the same force that animates, like literally animates their body. It's the same force that requires food and breath and all of that. But for the Maidan, they believed that it could go further than that. That you could push energy, your energy, just like you push your hand, that you could push your energy out of you, and you could also receive, energy into you. And so when the Maidan would fly their hands, which they called birds, or metaphorically, they were feeling and sensing that their connection to like air and to their own energy. And it can seem kind of, it's meant to be creative. I don't really know how literally you can take this. Sometimes I take it very literally. But you can sort of, if you want to like feel, the artistic example of this, you could imagine that, you have like energy that extends, out each palm, like maybe a 3-inch foamy block of energy, right? And then you can push that energy like into the other hand, and they can kind of take turns. Again, it's more of a creative exercise, but if you're with me in this, sort of Maidan spirit of something, then you can close your eyes and just feel. Sometimes it helps to get your hands really close to each other at first, like audible breath in. So again, as I'm like feeling, trying to feel my energy, not just inside of me, but like as it like moves out of me, I'm swirling that energy around, right? And so that energy, because my feet are what's touching the ground, my feet are what's touching the earth, the Maidan often saw that they were swirling that energy up through their legs, like up through the earth, like a tree pulls water up through its roots, and then out into its hands or head or whatever. Audible breath in. The best, explanation that I ever heard for the idea of the yin yang was actually like a 2,000-year-old proverb from that culture. But it was, that just like if you have a mountain that the sun comes across, rises, and one side of the mountain is lit, and then and the other side is dark, and then as it passes, those flip. So it's not the dualism, I guess you could say, that Westerners think about. It's the same mountain, It's just the light is coming across and the perspective is changing. And so that's a kind of, the reason I bring that up is that that's sort of the way that the Maidan felt about the current. So when they would reverse the current, they were sort of acknowledging that the lit side of the mountain may or will become the dark side of the mountain. And so the second current was just like their understanding of balance. Reverse. I don't know if we need a break. This is when Ann would usually tell me. Okay. So, once the Maidan started to feel it, you know, kind of like I am, like they're warming up, their body's feeling good, they're feeling connected, you know, then they wanted to kind of move the energy around. And so, you know, again, I don't know how much they literally believe these things, but as dancers, they moved like they believe these things. And so sometimes if they were getting sick, like physically sick, or if they were in a stuck place, or just for fun, they would try to move this running current, they would try to move it up and down the body so that like it could open things. Like, so for instance, if I, you know, am chest hooping, even shoulder hooping, right? Like I can imagine that this is my heart center, right? And so they could, you know, Ana is an ancestor to them. They're in a ritual of pretending or visualizing her running around them, and now her path of running is, you know, somewhere that they might want healing, or somewhere that they might want soothing or comfort or whatever, you know. And so it made that thinking made them want to be able to hoop everywhere, right? They wanted to be able to, you know, to let this activity, this ritual, this dance, to let it heal wherever it needed to heal. And they wanted Ana, this mythic woman they're ritualizing as running around them. They wanted her to, like, not, you know, stomp across them, not bang across them, but have nice, easy steps. And they thought of themselves as the landscape that she's running on in the story, right? So they would move their bodies, you know, it's hard to describe it in words, but they would move their bodies like to create hills or whatever for Ana, you know, or to let her move from one shoulder to the other. Like if I do something like this, like just, you know, kind of a simple paddle, but Ana's not even touching my chest, right? We talk about it in lots of different ways, but you can use the story. Remember when I say that, like, sometimes when you're learning shoulders, you're throwing one shoulder forward, and that will work, but it's awkward, and sometimes it helps to pull the shoulder back, and we will, like, I'll talk about like elbowing something behind you, or like pushing your elbow into, you know, your night side. In the story of Ana, if you can get there, you can close your eyes. You can imagine that, like, if she's landing hard on one shoulder, you you can pull that shoulder back and create kind of a downhill for her to run. If anybody can relate to what I'm saying right now, comment. Because this is such a hard thing to get across here. But so like this is, if I push my shoulders forward, let's see, maybe this is a bird's eye thing. Yeah, here we go. If I push my shoulders forward, Ana, this running, point of contact running around me, or this is, okay, so this is like if I'm intentionally colliding with her, right? But if I start to pull my shoulders back, right, then I give her like a smoother surface, right? And she can run a little bit faster with a little bit less energy from me. Okay, cool. And then, you just, and I'm gonna let you go with this. Well, maybe we'll put a different song on, but oh, nice. Nice. Great comment there, Jordan. Then I remember my feet as roots. All right. I want to play, let's see. Sorry, I'm looking for a nice, kind of kick-assy house song. Okay. Okay. There's another vibe change, but we're gonna mix it up. My dad would have liked all kinds of music. They would have listened to more than just flutes and drums if they had had more than flutes and drums. So, like, one creative, fun thing you can do if you want to is to go with what we were just doing as a theme and imagine that, like, you are, that some badass woman named Ana has the same lineage of you, that you two are part of the same, group, but she has moved on, right? And so she's visiting you in that rhythm, joyfully, hopefully. And you can take the hoop and just sort of take it everywhere you want to and see how it changes the way you feel the hoop. Like, I can imagine, like, there were a couple of times where I would, like, neck hoop to kind of warm up my, like, in my metaphorical mind, I was, like, energizing my vocal cords or whatever. That swirling idea that I gave you from the story about swirling your energy, that's a good nice. But that swirling energy is a metaphor that you can use to actually help your physical hooping, like in the sense of cheating the hoop up. If I imagine that I'm swirling, the insides of me. One of the things I'll just talk over while we're core hooping here. One of the things about Ana, and I've told her full story on the stream before, but, you know, one element of her story, what begins her story, is that she escapes from living with her father, who she felt was, you know, at least emotionally abusive to her and negligent. And so she's probably like 16, you know, like she was not super young as myths go, and she steals this long black cloak like that flows behind her as she runs, and she realizes that the door to her dad's, you know, essentially castle, he's this basically a warlord type guy, she realizes that it's been open the whole time, and so she just says to herself, anywhere but here. Anywhere but here. And she walks and then starts to speed walk, and then she moves into a run, and then all of a sudden she's running as fast as she can. And she just keeps telling herself, it's this kind of weird mantra to herself, but she just keeps saying, anywhere but here, anywhere but here, anywhere but here. And what's cool about this story is that she's not waiting for an opportunity. In fact, the point of the story is that the door's been open the whole time. The opportunity's been right there. And so she has a very like carpe diem energy to her character. Like she's very much like, don't wait for the right time, make time, be the time, now is the time, you know, kind of energy. And, you know, as like a lifelong procrastinator, like I like to feel that. And it happens sometimes where you just sort of, you know, if you've ever just gotten up and just started doing the thing, that's, you know, in story terms, that's a nah energy. Like it's your energy, but it's, her stories are kind of meant to inspire that type of self-created burst that leads to momentum elsewhere. That song. You know, as I said in another stream recently, like, you know, I don't really believe in universal advice. You know, that's why stories and collecting them, you know, all the different stories that you know already, not my stories, but just any story, they hit you different at different times, you know. And sometimes the lesson in the story is something you're living, and then sometimes the lesson in the story is something you realize you need to learn from in order to live, you know. And it's the beautiful thing about stories. There may be some of you that maybe not everybody needs to make quick decisions without thinking it through. That might be bad advice for some, but in her case, it was just like, you know, she just sort of realized that she had just become too skeptical that she would ever feel the love she needed at her house, you know. So she went out, and it was the pain of not receiving it was just too much for her, and she felt like it was hindering because she found herself trying to be this daughter to her father that she wasn't, you know. And despite all of her efforts of, you know, not being in her authenticity, like all of that, she was still neglected. And so finally she just said, F that. and took off running. And I think we could all use a little of that sometimes. Yeah, for sure. Actually, let's try another one. Okay, I think what we'll do, yeah, okay, this will be fun. I think what we'll do to take a break, not from story, but just from core hooping, because we've been doing a lot of it, is I want us to do some vertical rolling, because if you think about your vertical rolling in the way of the story, then sometimes it makes it feel a little more organic, makes it look a little more organic, and you know, organic basically means authentic, and so it just feels more comfortable. So like let's see, where am I? Okay. So I am, you know, imagining now that a na is running around my arm, right? And so I'm making that connection. I've still got my roots, and I can still like sort of bring in like swirl, just like we were swirling, you know, swirling our chest. I can swirl my arm. But how much I swirl my arm is really up to me and how much energy I'm creating from my feet. And then when I go to switch arms, right, Ana is jumping in the air and then she is landing on my arm. So I'm trying to make that as gentle for both of us. I love, you know, if you think about Anaz running and wheelies, you know, it's pretty fun. It's kind of like Anaz moonwalking back to you. Not everybody responds to metaphors, but when I was out on the road, I was surprised like how helpful for some people it was to think about their vertical rolling, you know, make a deeper connection to it, because a lot of times it's like, you know, I think because we're so used to having things in our hands that we then perform a task with, that we think more about the completion of the task or the motion or whatever, and not just enjoying the motion. And I think that's where, you know, the Ana metaphor, you know, as a hoop exercise can be really helpful. Like, you know, like for me, it's just using that story right now. It's like when I toss the hoop, I can just imagine her like, ah, you know, and then I'm trying to make sure she lands in a way that she doesn't hurt herself or hurt me. Okay. All right. We're getting towards the end of the class here. What do you guys want to listen to? I think maybe we'll just do a free hoop song now.
Clap your hands now, people clap now. Clap your hands now, people clap your hands. Clap your hands now, people clap now. Clap your hands now, people clap your hands. Clap your hands now, people clap now. Clap your hands now, people clap your hands. People clap now. Clap your hands now, people clap your hands. Clap your hands now, people clap now. Clap your hands now, people clap your hands. Clap your hands now, people clap now. Clap your hands now, people clap your hands. Listen to the strings, y'all. Listen all around. We gonna let our guitar man go through his bass. Listen to the strings, y'all. Listen all around. Clap your hands now, people clap now. Clap your hands now, people clap your hands. Clap your hands now, people clap now. Clap your hands now, people clap your hands. Clap your hands now, people clap now. Clap your hands now, people clap your hands.
Thank you, Shelley. Okay. 8 o'clock, we'll jump to our cool down song. Thank you guys. We will have a Wake and Flow on Saturday. I have not advertised it at all, but it's just basically like a flow companion. We just try a new genre on. I'm trying to do genres, and I got in a little bit of trouble last time because I didn't preview the songs, in my opinion, enough. But I will for this next track, or for this next Saturday. All right.
This shit, I got a passion. I've been up late insomniacing. All these late nights, I'm an addict. I'm becoming something like a savage. I done found myself when I was lacking. Thinking about the finish to be added. Just gotta let it go and push the gas. No regrets from the passion. My ex was a bad bitch. I don't really think I got a reason. Bitches always turn another season. I just took another one to feed it. I just took another one to feed it, yeah. I've been riding around on my mission, yeah. Do it on my own in the feelings, yeah. Thoughts so cold, my brain is freezing, yeah. Usually you'll find me in my song, but your girl, she just hit me on my phone. I just told her no, I can't involve. Cause if I'm in my feelings, I get lost. I just came through feeling some type of way. I just put two things inside of my drink. I just pulled up a thought in my brain.
Myth and flow, right? I forgot that term. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Lisa. Sweet, guys. Thank you so much.
I just pulled up a thought in my brain. I'm just doing me. I'm just doing me. I just wasted thoughts and patience. All your shaded colors faded. Powder, swerve, fluid, water, hydro, planet, savage, monster. I don't really think I got a reason. Bitches always turn another season. I just took another one to feed it. I just took another one to feed it, yeah. I've been riding around on my mission, yeah. Do it on my own in the feelings, yeah. Thoughts so cold, my brain is freezing, yeah. Yeah. Usually you'll find me in my song, but your girl, she just hit me on my phone. I just told her no, I can't involve. Cause if I'm in my feelings, I get lost. I just came through feeling some type of way. I just put two things inside.